Chapter 9, Ace of Cups. Kain entered one of the rooms and unlike collected the blood, saliva, and urine samples for his test. She also looked at Kain's swollen eye. She gave him a cream to soothe the pain and lower the swelling. Oberon was the next patient to get treated, and she dressed his wounds before charging him a pittance. He was thankful to have received that family discount. Kain and Oberon went their separate ways, and Oberon wanted to ask Kain to visit the Space Club again, but he didn't want to appear like he was desperate. Hearing Kain talk about his sexuality had given Oberon false hopes. If Kain didn't care what his girlfriends looked like, then perhaps he might be able to overlook his male reproductive organs. As for Kain, he was a little disappointed that Oberon hadn't invited him to visit Space Club again. He had felt safe knowing that the bouncer Oberon was keeping an eye on him. Kain received a text message from Ariel. This Friday she wanted Kain to pick her up early. She wanted to visit the witchy dinner without her mother or brother tagging along. Ariel wasn't looking for a lost spell. She wanted something else. Kain drove out to Kenda's charter middle school and he showed his police badge before asking for Ariel. And since he was in the emergency contact list, he was allowed to take the girl. She ran to Kain before jumping into his arms to slobber his face with kisses. Ariel said, giggling, "My hero, let's go, Kain, run, run, run!" Kain ran out of the school, carrying Ariel in her backpack, and he started texting Rosanna to inform her that he was taking Ariel to see Irina, and Ariel took Kain's cell phone to erase the text message. She didn't want her mother to know the nature of the spell she wanted. On the ride there, Ariel started playing with Kain's computer, and she wanted to see if any of her classmates had juvenile records. And she laughed when she saw that her boyfriend Oswald had been caught driving without a license, and he had crashed his father's Mustang against a tree. And to teach his son responsibility, Detective Farley had allowed his son to be processed. And Oswald was charged with a second-degree misdemeanor, and in lieu of jail time, he served 2 months of community service. And instead of teaching Oswald responsibility, the youth learned that he couldn't count on his father for anything. "Farley is just awful," said Ariel, reading the record. "And what kind of a psycho arrests his own son? It must be difficult for Oswald to have Farley for a father. And I have to work with him for 8 hours a day, and I can barely tolerate his presence. And he spends all his time making certain that we are doing our work instead of getting his own job done. And the atmosphere has been super tense ever since he was sent to our station," barked Kain. After a short ride, Kain arrived to the Savannah apartment, and there wasn't any parking space, so he parked on the curb, and he opened the door for little Ariel, and he took her hand and they two climbed up the stairs. And there was a line at Irina's doorstep, and after half an hour they were able to speak with the infamous psychic. "Kain, welcome," said Irina, leaving her seat. "I'm sorry for making you wait so long." "Don't worry about it," said Kain, smiling sadly. "Did you come for a psychic reading?" asked Irina. "Yes and no. Ariel needs a spell first," said Kain, pointing to Ariel. Ariel was hiding behind Kain, and she was shy among strangers, and she had only seen Irina once at a party. Irina had interpreted the dreams and thrown the cards, and on the way to her car, Irina saw Malik being held at gunpoint, and she had been instrumental in saving Malik from a murderous stalker. And thanks to her psychic rank, she was able to delay the would-be killer long enough for Kain to show up. He arrested the pair, and Malik got to leave for another day. Ariel said before the psychic, and after carefully meditating her request, she said, "I need a spell to kill a demon." "I do not do death spells anymore," said Irina. "But for you, little darling, I might make an exception. Tell me the name of the demon you wish me to slay." "I do not know the name of the demon. She comes to my brother's bedroom every night, and he hasn't been able to sleep in over a week, and I haven't been able to get much sleep either, with my brother screaming at the top of his lungs," explained Ariel. "Can you help me exorcise this demon?" "To exorcise this demon, I'm going to need your brother to be present," said Irina. "Why?" asked Ariel. "I can't do long-distance exorcism," said Irina. "Well, I suppose it will fall on you, Kain, to tie Malik down for his exorcism," said Ariel, pouting. "Now that everything is decided, I will gather my supplies, said Irina, going upstairs. Irina returned dressed only in white, and she carried a well-worn Catholic Bible in a basket, and she went to the kitchen to pack herbs, eggs, and holy water. Holy water worked better if refrigerated, or so Irina believed. Is the steaming male or female? Asked Irina while looking at her spice rack. Is a succubus male or female? Asked Ariel. King grew somber. Ariel had overheard part of his conversation with Grandpa Lorraine, and he pondered just how much Irina knew of the demon that haunted Malik's nightmares. Irina gave Kain a knowing glance, and then again Irina was an expert pretending to know more than what she truly did. And with all the items gathered, all they needed was to secure Malik. Ariel called up her brother, and she was happy to hear that he was home from work early. The office snitch had recorded Malik napping a few times and drinking on the job. And nothing was forgivable, but his work output had gotten sloppy, and Michael had no other choice but to let him go. Michael felt guilty about firing Malik, and as quickly as he had fired him, he had changed his mind. And after speaking with his lawyer, he gave Malik a temporary leave of absence. Malik would be welcomed back into the company as soon as he got his drinking under control, and he was distracted from his rumination by the arrival of his little sister. Malik, I have a surprise for you, said Ariel, covering her brother's eyes. But it isn't my birthday, said Malik, forcing a fake smile. It is your happy non-birthday, said Ariel, giggling. Are you ready to see your big surprise? Yes, lied Malik. He couldn't imagine how this day could get any worse. When he opened his eyes, he gasped when he saw Irina. He hadn't seen the psychic since the night he had almost gotten shot, and before he had a chance to digest the situation, he was struck in the forehead by a wreath of herbs, and Irina saw the wreath with holy water before chanting in Mayan. I overheard Kain and Grandpa talking about your demon problem, so I hired an exorcist. I tried to get a Catholic priest to come, but all he did was give me this stupid pamphlet, said Ariel, showing a pamphlet for AA. That's Alcoholic Anonymous. Thank you, sis. I really needed this, said Malik, giving a queer smile. Malik was swatted from head to toe by the herbs, and just when he thought that the exorcism was finally over, Irina brought out an egg, and she passed it over Malik's forehead and limbs, and she placed the egg in a bag before handing it to Kain. Throw it in a street that has 4 corners, said Irina. Kain ran to do what she asked. He didn't want to miss a second of the exorcism. When he returned, Irina had lighted up an incense candle, and now she was reciting Bible verses. Malik found the situation laughable, but he had to maintain a straight face. His sister had gone to a lot of trouble to find a cure for what ailed him. Write the name of the demon that ails you, said Irina, handing Malik a piece of paper and pencil. Malik wrote down 3 names. Both Kain and Ariel attempted to look over his shoulder to read the names. Irina took the paper before they had a chance to read it, and she placed in the center of the paper sacred herbs, cinnamon bark, and various dry flowers. She rolled out the paper into a cigar, and much to everyone's dismay, she lighted the cigar, and she inhaled. And her eyes rolled to the back of her head, and this deeply impressed Malik, who was the biggest skeptic of the trio. And she began to pace about the house, blowing smoke in random spots. And it was incredible how she continued to walk around with her eyes still completely white. And she picked up a portrait that was hanging over the fake chimney, and she cracked the glass before burning in the face of someone who was in the photograph, and she dropped the portrait before continuing on her way, and Kay had to catch it to keep the picture frame from breaking. Who did she burn? Asked Ariel, looking at the picture frame. She burned Ezra. I guess your daddy must be possessed too, said Kain. Papa's possessed? Asked Ariel, surprised and alarmed. By a pride demon, said Irina, but those are almost impossible to exorcise. Irina made her way to Malik's bedroom, and she tore down the curtain, and she threw away the bedsheets and pillow covers, and she also threw away all of Malik's old clothing, and she did a similar despojo in Ariel's bedroom, and all she left was a couple of posters and a music box, and just as Irina was making her way towards the other bedrooms, Rosanna arrived with Grandpa Lorraine, and she screamed when she saw the strange woman in white with her eyes rolled to the back of her head. Mom, relax, it's fine, said Ariel, running to her mother. We are doing an exorcism. Even after hearing the word Even after hearing the word exorcism, Rosanna refused to hear another word, and she wanted that charlatan out of her house immediately, and the exorcism was left incomplete. Irina was paid $100 to leave immediately, and Neville handed Irina the piggy bank as a tip for the exorcist, and while she was outside Mally's house, she handed Kain a small round box. I didn't get a chance to give Mally this rosary, said Irina. I'm sorry about Rosanna. She's usually very nice, but she's under a lot of stress, said Kain. As a mother, I understand and I forgive her rudeness, said Irina. And if you need me to do another exorcism, you know where to find me. Is the demon gone, Irina? Asked Kain, worried. Yes, the demon is long gone, but the memory of the creature can never be truly exorcised. And trust me, I know from experience, said Irina. I see, said Kain, growing saddened. Irina got in her car and she drove back home, and she could sense that Kain wanted to ask the name of the demon that haunted her, and she still had the strength to speak the demon she once called father. And Kain returned inside the house, and Rosanna was pacing the living room, was screeching at the top of her lungs. Man, I owe my life to that charlatan, said Malik when his mother finally quieted down. Be that as it may, it doesn't give her the right to invade our privacy under the excuse of performing a phony exorcism, said Rosanna, folding her arms. She went to her bedrooms to check for missing valuables, and it piqued Rosanna that her shooter had acted behind her back. And as the head of the household, she wanted all the secrets to be run by her, and she frowned when she saw the missing curtains in Malik's bedroom, and his closet was also missing a good portion of his wardrobe. What happened to the curtains? Asked Rosanna. They had demons in them, said Ariel dryly, so they had to go. It's fine, Mom, don't make a big deal about it. I have been meaning to redecorate, said Malik. If I am to live here with you, I want to finally have a say in the decoration of my bedroom. What's wrong with the way I arranged them? Asked Rosanna in a whiny tone. Man, can we not fight in front of Kain? Said Malik, pointing at Kain, and Kain's posture was hunched and he was fiddling nervously with his fingers, and his mannerism from his childhood had recently resurfaced. And Malik patted Kain's hair before saying with a mocking tone in his voice, There, Kain, you can relax. We are not fighting. I'm not a child. Stop treating me like one, said Kain, swatting Malik's hand away, and he stood straight with a defiant look in his gray eyes. Malik rubbed Kain's cheek before commenting, What happened to your eye? Kain saw Ariel, so he chose to remain silent, and said Malik answered, and Kain dodged the question by asking, Why are you home so early? We were all let off the early for the weekends, like Malik, and to mask his lie he brought out an invitation, and Michael asked me to give you this letter. I do not know why he couldn't just send you a text message, but I guess some guys are fans of traditional media. Kain looked at the letter with his name, and it was an invitation to Eugenia's baby shower, and the invitation came with a list of pastries she wanted Kain to make for the party, and she had a craving for Kain's homemade cookies and cupcakes, and the baby shower was happening on December 4th, and Kain made his way towards the door, and he was weary of the situation, and he wanted to go home to forget about Malik and his problems, and he was a lousy police officer. He didn't have a cure for Malik's wolves. He found Lorraine standing beside his car. Can you stay the night, Kain? Asked Lorraine. Lorraine, I can barely manage my own demons, let alone the demons of another. I already did enough for Malik for one day, said Kain, fiddling with his car keys. Kain, please stay just for one night, insisted Lorraine, taking Kain's hands. Kain saw that Lorraine was just on the verge of crying, and he informed his father that he was staying over at Malik's house. Jack was happy to hear that he had the house to himself, and he called over a bunch of guys and his new girlfriend. In less than an hour, he had a loud party going. Kain returned to Malik's house, and the first thing he did was raid Malik's closet. And once he had a comfortable pajama, a short and underwear, and a tank top, he went into the bathroom to shower. And he lingered in the shower for almost an hour, and can remember how his father would brush and style his hair when he was small. And if he was suffering from withdrawal, Jack would brush him a little too hard. And if Kain cried in pain, Jack would break down into tears before running away. And if Jack was flying, little Kain would get a haircut and a cool hair dye. When he finally left the bathroom, he stood before the mirror, and for all his life, his look was being dictated by others. As a child, his parents and grandparents dictated his fashion, and now as an adult, he wore what he thought would help him attract a mate. Kain, I had to use a can, lied Malik. Kain got dressed quickly before opening the door, and instead of entering the bathroom, Malik pulled Kain by the elbow to drag him out of his bedroom. And before they got to the living room, Malik whispered, "You are making Grandpa sad by isolating yourself in the bathroom, and you only need to put up with me for a few hours, and let's put on a good show for him like old time's sake." Malik was alluding to how he would pretend to have fun whenever Kain was around, and both twins would pretend to have fun in order to make their respected grandpas happy. And Lorraine was Raphael's best friend, and he wanted Malik to become best friends with Kain. "It wasn't all pretend, Malik, and I truly did enjoy playing games with you," said Kain bitterly. "And for a while I fancied that you had stopped pretending as well." "I never stopped pretending, Kain," said Malik, giving a sardonic smile. "But now that little Kain finally grew up, I can honestly say that I am starting to tolerate your presence." Two tears rolled down Kain's cheek, and he had finally reached his limit, and he didn't want to be there anymore, and he ruled the day his grandpa Raphael forced him to play with Malik, and Malik's smile immediately faded, and he was overcome with guilt. "Stop crying, you're making a scene," whispered Malik, and he added as he saw Grandpa Lorraine approaching, "I'm sorry, Kain, I didn't mean it." "You are a thankless bastard, Malik, and I saved your worthless life, and this is how you treat me," whined Kain with his face contorted into a childish grimace. "I wish I had never met you." "I am sorry, Kain, I'm sorry, I didn't mean a single word of it," lied Malik. "Oh, my grandson, are you bullying Kain again? Wasn't it enough for you to punch him the night before, and must you also taunt him?" said Lorraine wearily. "This is your fault, Mom," said Aria, pointing at her mother. "The old Malik was on the verge of returning, but you just had to interrupt the exorcism." Malik grew saddened, and he didn't remember punching Kain, and he spent the rest of the night as docile as a little lamb. And he played video games with his little sister while Kain tested Carina, and he became peeved by the fact that all she wanted to talk about was Malik. And Aria went to bed at 9 p.m., and with her gone, there was nobody left to force the adults to act civilized. Rosanna forced in small talk, asked, "And how is your life going, Kain? Have you found yourself a new girlfriend yet?" "Not really," said Kain bitterly. "Any casual encounters?" asked Lorraine, switching to gossip mode. "No," said Kain before resting his face on his hand. "Don't lie, Kain. Yesterday he bedded two maidens in a single night," said Malik, remembering something from the night before. "So you remember that much, eh, Malik?" asked Kain. "I am sorry to disappoint, but nothing happened." "Why?" asked Malik. "I understand that you had issues with the first chick. She was a plain Jane, but the redhead was simply stunning. Why weren't you able to get inspired?" "I wasn't in the mood, and I'm not in the mood to talk about it," said Kain. "And what is it like going to a shrink?" asked Lorraine, changing the subject, and he wanted to show Malik that shrinks were not as bad as they sounded. "It isn't as melodramatic as what you see in the movies, and we talk for an hour and then I go home, and Nolan is close enough to me that I feel that she cares about my petty woes, but she is distant enough that she is able to do her job," said Kain. "What antidepressant pills are you on?" asked Malik. "None," said Kain, and he yawned before making his way to the guest room, and just when he was starting to fall asleep, he felt movement under the bed sheets, and he lifted the sheets. When he lifted the sheets, Kain saw Malik's green eyes glistering in the darkness, and Malik rested his head against Kain's shoulder before breathing a sigh of relief, and it didn't take long for him to fall into a peaceful, heavy slumber. And while Malik slept, Kain stayed awake, and he was angry at the situation, and Malik didn't show the slightest hint of remorse. Even when he apologized, Kain could tell that his friend didn't really mean it. Kain slithered out of the bed, and he tiptoed into the living room with his cell phone, and he lay down on the couch to look through his messages, and he smiled when he got a text message from Oberon. At least his new friend was always nice to him. They exchanged messages for half an hour, and eventually Kain got a phone call, and Oberon wanted to hear his voice. "We have to whisper. Everyone is asleep," whispered Kain, calling into a fetus position, and he placed the couch pillow over his head in order to muffle the sound of his voice. "You're the one who needs to whisper, Kain," said Oberon, giggling. and he was in the break room. Are you doing anything tomorrow? I am baking cookies and cupcakes for my ex-girlfriend Eugenia, and she has a craving for them, and for the sake of the baby, I cannot in good conscience let her starve. And at what time do you get off work? And if you go to bed immediately, you can assist me in the kitchen, said Kain. I don't know how to cook, but maybe I can learn a thing or two by watching you work, said Oberon. And at what time are you waking up? My grandparents raised me to be an early bird, but I can start baking as soon as you arrive, and the latest I am awake is 9, said Kain. Do you want me to buy any ingredients? Asked Oberon. No, just drive him it directly, and if we need anything we can just buy it together, said Kain. And let me tell you the address of where I'm at. You're not at your house, asked Oberon, reading the address. Kain is late. Get back in bed, ordered Malik, and he had awoken to find himself alone. Stop being a baby and go sleep by yourself, Malik, barked Kain. Please, Kain, I'm begging you. Please go back to bed, begged Malik. I gotta go, Oberon. Don't work too hard. Bye, said Kain, hanging up the phone. Oh, that's it. See you in that chapter. Bye-bye and God bless.